Reimagining Success, episode 263. You're listening to the Reimagining Success podcast, where we help you design a business and a life that allows you freedom from the 9 to 5. I'm your host, Anna Lundberg, ex-corporate good girl, now a business mentor and coach, author, mum of 2, and I'm here to help you create more freedom, flexibility, and fulfillment. Now let's get started with redefining success outside of the 9 to 5. Hello there, welcome back to the podcast, and we are into November, and that means, yes, there's just a couple of months left. In fact, there's only really a few weeks left. If you're like me, perhaps taking some time off in December, if you do celebrate Christmas, and certainly if you have kids who have some time off school as well this time of year. So basically, that means we just have a few more weeks left, which means aside from all the usual planning Christmas presents and who's going to whose house, and we've got all sorts of birthday parties and parents' evenings and all that jazz. And we also in our business want to be thinking about, okay, how has this year gone? Wrapping up projects, tying up loose ends, closing contracts, getting things over the line, wrapping things up nicely with a bow, ideally, a nice little red and green sparkly Christmas bow, perhaps. And then we also want to be thinking ahead to next year because, and I'm sure I've shared this many times on the podcast, but I really am a big fan, there you go, Freudian slip, a big fan of a plan because, and take it from me, and you may have experienced this too, it's the years when you don't have much of a vision. And I'm going to hold my hand up here. I think this year was one of those for me. It's easy to feel a bit sort of meh at the end of the year. Last year I had a big goal. I wanted to write and publish my next book, which I did. As a result, I had a bit of a slow start in January. It wasn't very well. I had sort of the hangover of the book launch and so on, and that was all happening. And then, of course, the year after you publish a book is all about getting that book out into people's hands. So I've been sending copies to people, I've been, going on podcasts, talking about it and so on, as well as starting, developing, I suppose, a new income stream. Doing more corporate workshops and facilitating that side of things, as well as moving house. We had a big house project, etc., etc. So it's not to say that things haven't happened this year, but I will hold my hands up and say I didn't do the rigorous sort of vision board planning process. And while I never want to regret things, and there's no point in changing, and I'm still very proud of a number of achievements of this year. I had my highest income month since I started, I want to say, actually, which is something to celebrate. Definitely, we're in this dreamy house by the sea again, and I had a big in-person workshop that I created, ran, facilitated, which is the first in-person I've done in many a year. Lots of things for me to celebrate. It's been a little bit organic is a positive way of saying it, ad hoc, perhaps a little bit haphazard, rather than very strategic. And again, there is a moment for that kind of time in your life. Maybe it is a bit of consolidating what you've done, exploring, experimenting, and so on. But there's also a moment when we're ambitious, high-achieving individuals, when we want to be super clear on, hang on, no, this is where I want to go. And for me, it's a bit of a moment like that now because I am now 10 years in business, 10 years since I quit my job, my corporate marketing job back in 2013. My daughter has started school now. My son is sleeping better through the night, most nights. And at the moment, I've got sort of 4 days a week to work, which is a lot. I know the rest of the corporate world thinks 4 days is not a lot. For me, it is a lot. And so I'm at this moment when I'm looking ahead to the next decade, thinking what's next. Do I tweak my programs? Do I, an option is to completely scrap everything and start from scratch. Don't think I'll do that, but it's a possibility. So it's an exciting moment to reflect and also to sort of leap forwards into the next year. So with that in mind, I do want to say that, of course, I am running my annual strategic planning session. It's your 12-month business blueprint, I'm calling it this year. Very exciting and very powerful session. So if you're listening to this live, it's on Thursday, the 16th of November, so just over a week from now. And that will be a live session together, very interactive, very workshopy. There'll be some pre-work, there'll be some post-work, and really, really valuable session to map out your year for next year. And believe me, I will be doing the same for myself this year. You can hold me to account for that. In the meantime, though, or I should say, you can go to onestepoutside.com / my lips are all right over the place today, / blueprint. Onestepoutside.com / blueprint to access that workshop. Ideally to join us live, of course, though you can then watch the recording. And of course, you can message me on any social platform where we're connected if you want the details, if you can't find it for whatever reason, or if you want to ask me any questions. In the meantime, though, you may see where this is going. I want to do a bit of a review of this past year. Because before we can start navigating and planning the next year, we do want to look back and say, okay, what do we want to keep doing? What hasn't worked so well? What has worked well? And so on. So if you want, you can pause this, grab a pen and paper, or you can just let my words wash over you and you can come back to this later. It's not a, super comprehensive, time-consuming exercise. I just want to ask you a few prompts. We will be doing this as well as part of the workshop in a bit more detail. But I want to already give you an opportunity to start those wheels whirring in your head. I know it's only November, but as I started this podcast episode saying, it's already, getting very close to the end of the year. Before we know it, snap like that, it'll be 2024, believe it or not. So my first question to you to ponder, to reflect on, to meditate on is, how do you feel about this year overall? So you can pause. I won't, in the interest of interest, give you massive silences on this episode because that would be a bit boring, but I will wait a little bit and then you can pause and start again. But the question is, how do you feel about this year? So are you bubbling over with excitement? Do you have a general sense of, oh my gosh, so much has happened and you've made, come forward leaps and bounds. Oh my gosh, you've started the business, you've grown the business to this point, you had your first this type of client, you made that amount of money, you published a book, you launched a podcast, whatever it is. How do you feel about this year overall? Super positive, bubbling over, feeling a bit meh, perhaps, like I have to some extent, and hopefully we can bring out the bubbles from that meh as well, because I'm sure there's lots of things that we have to celebrate even so. Or is it, oh no, I'm really frustrated, I just haven't moved the needle at all on the business, I haven't prioritized the things that mattered, I haven't grown it to where I want to be, I haven't even started this project that I said I was going to do. How are you feeling about it overall? Without even digging into too much detail, how do you feel about 2023? The next question, and it's a 5-parter, is digging into the 5 different areas. So if you're new to my community, hello, thank you for listening. If not, then you're familiar with these. But it's my 5 L's. It's the 5 zones, 5 areas of your life that I believe you need to pay attention to, those kind of spinning plates you need to nurture and keep spinning in order to feel meaningful and holistic success. So those 5 L's are live, love, learn, lead, laugh. Live is your health and well-being. Love is your relationships and belonging to the community, to your peers, to a group. Learn is development and growth. Lead is your career and impact. In your case, perhaps your business. And laugh is fun and spontaneity and everything that brings you joy and all those things. So live, love, learn, lead, laugh. And for each of these, I want you to now double click, as it were, and reflect on, okay, within the health and well-being sphere, how am I feeling now? Of course, the go-to ones for me was, I've run a half marathon and I've done this and that and I've lost that weight and I've done, but it's not just about that, right? It really is, how have you been feeling? Have you been, and I have been going to bed earlier to sleep better. My son Zach is sleeping better, that no thanks to me, but the two coincide quite nicely. So I'm a little bit perkier than I used to be. I work with a personal trainer and nutritionist. I have not run a half marathon this year, in fact. And at the moment, as we speak, I've got a problem with my IT band. So I'm taking care of that. But generally, how has health been for you and your family? Is it something you've prioritized? So both input, what actions you've taken, and then also what has been the outcome. And unfortunately, sometimes we have unexpected illnesses and things that are outside of our control. But perhaps your energy hasn't been where it should be. Perhaps you have had some unexpected health issues, whether they have a clear cause that you can affect or not is going to change what you can do about it. But how do you feel about live health and well-being: physical health, emotional health, mental health. The next one is love. So relationships and belonging. So romantic relationship, of course, with potential or existing partners, children, parents, siblings, also friends. Running your own business, especially when people start out, it can feel quite lonely. So how is that sense of belonging to a peer group? Do you have a support network around you, people, cheerleaders, friends? We've moved to a new place, it's then making new friends. If you work from home by yourself, you do have to make more of an effort to go out and meet people. How is relationships for you? How is this area for you? And again, both in terms of, I would have wanted to call my aging auntie more, or seen my, cousins, whatever that is. And also the outcome, actually, I feel like I've drifted apart from my friends since we left London, or I do feel a bit isolated. I don't have that, peer group and so on. So that's love, relationships and belonging. The next one is learn. So development and growth. My go-to, and I know many of you in the community too, is to sign up to formal courses. It could be working with a mentor. It could be doing one of my programs, working with a coach. It could be, I've done a little mini master's this year. I say I've done, I haven't finished it. So that's something to complete in the next few weeks, I remind myself of. Organizational psychology, micro masters. I've worked with someone specifically in terms of sales, B2B sales this year, to learn a bit more about that, because I've been doing more sort of individual sales. So what have you learned, and how have you sort of invested in your own personal and professional development? And of course, again, as a business owner, we don't have a manager or HR department that's going to tell us to complete XYZ training, right? So part of it is just a steep learning curve anyway of working for ourselves, but part of it is also in investing in courses, programs, mentors, etc., that will help us to learn and grow. I've also done Duolingo, which I always thought was a bit silly. It's an app for languages if you're not familiar with it, but I've done the Spanish for a year now, so I'm proud of that too. So albeit I'm not talking and so on, actually, it's pretty good in terms of keeping my Spanish alive. And if I go back to Spain at some point, maybe I'll even dare to speak Spanish to somebody. So that's another one. It doesn't have to be business related, right? The next category is business related. It's lead, so career and impact. So, have you, and that's related to growth, but more related to the business then, have you challenged yourself this year? Have you upskilled? Have you written a book? What have you created in terms of, content? Have you started a new channel? Have you launched a new program? Have you done speaking engagements, or, done your first podcast interview? In the area of, really developing your career, your business, and the impact that you're making, how do you feel about that this year? Again, always in terms both of your input, what you've done actively, and then also the output, the outcome. I just don't feel like I've, grown the business as much, and hopefully you have a specific goal there rather than just a feeling. I had this goal and I haven't achieved that, or absolutely I have achieved the goal I set myself. The final one is tricky, I know, and it's the one that I always prioritize the least. So I hold my hands up here: laugh, fun, and spontaneity. There's more and more of this, especially since we moved back and we're living closer to our friends, living by the sea. What is it that brings you joy? Something, not just going to the gym because you want to get fit or be healthy, not just, learning a language because, I don't know, it's something that needs to bring you joy, not just, you're not doing it because you have to or you feel you should. Real joy. So reading a novel, going on a writing retreat, paddleboarding, sailing, knitting, whatever it is for you, so going with friends to do something, something just really fun and joyful. And do you make space for that? Because I say most of us don't, unfortunately. And it's hard with pressure of bringing in money and health issues and all these things, but so important. And if we're not having fun, then, what is the point, to be honest? So those are the 5 areas to reflect on. So live, health and well-being; love, relationships, belonging; learn, development and growth; lead, career and impact; and laugh, fun and spontaneity. So I've talked at you there. So again, if you want to pause now and go back and reflect over those 5, maybe you've jotted something down and you can come back to it and flesh it out later. This doesn't have to be a hugely time-consuming scientific process. It's really to get you a sense of what's worked, what hasn't, and then what do you want to do going forward. I have 2 final questions for you today. The first one is, what do you want to celebrate? So looking at this list in terms of how you feel overall, in terms of each of those 5 L's, what do you want to celebrate? And I would love you to, and as ever, I tell you this because I'm not good at doing this, to really celebrate, whether it's I'm going to book myself a massage, I'm going to take my partner out for dinner, I'm going to have a bubble bath with champagne and whatever, I'm going to watch my favorite. I mean, ideally something different than you would usually do, something that feels really indulgent and really to celebrate yourself. I had a client who I saw celebrated 5 years in her business, and she did a proper event and she celebrated that. If you launched a book, and again, I did not do this, so I am just as guilty as the next person. Have a book launch, have an event, make a cake with your face on it, for goodness sake. These are incredible achievements. We should be celebrating them. Okay, if we hit the income goal, it doesn't mean we then have to go out and buy like a new car or handbag or something and spend all our money. Doesn't have to be something that's expensive, but please, please, please celebrate. So the question is, what do you want to celebrate? And of course, part B, how will you celebrate? And do let me know if you can ping me on social. I'm usually Anna S.E. Lundberg. Anna Lundberg is a very common name in Sweden, unfortunately, so my handle uses my middle names, S.E. Anna S.E. Lundberg, and you can connect with me and let me know, because I love celebrating you. It's much easier for me to celebrate you than to celebrate myself, and I'd love to hear how you will celebrate, so that will give you some accountability. And the next question, final question, what do you want to do differently? Final question, because this is, of course, transitioning ourselves into planning for next year. So looking at that, is there a particular area out of the 5 L's perhaps that needs more work? Somewhere where you want to make more of an effort and or you want different results? What do you want to do differently? And it's, this is not, again, you don't need to write an essay. You don't have to now have a 12-page business plan, ever, in fact. But really think about, okay, what kind of different thing do you want to see? Now, if the answer is exactly the same next year, I think that's unlikely. But if it is, amazing. Let's capture the things you did this year and make sure you don't lose sight of those next year. Because sometimes we stop doing the things that are working, forget about them, get a bit complacent, and then, we don't get the same results next year. And in fact, we sometimes need to do more just to get the same. But nonetheless, what do you want to do differently? Capture that, and then we can move on next week. If you want to join our session, again, you can find the details of the live workshop, onestepoutside.com/blueprint. That's going to be our annual strategic planning session for next year, and there'll be more to come there as well. Of course, if you do want to join us, that would be amazing. It's such a great interactive thing to do with someone else. And as I've admitted myself, sometimes it doesn't happen when you do it on your own. So I really encourage you to join us there. One final time, onestepoutside.com/blueprint. And that's our annual business strategic planning session for 2024. Hope I'm getting the years right. And in the meantime, today we've reviewed 2023. And I hope that gave you some little sprinkling of insight as to how this year has gone, and what you want to do differently for next year as we start to wind down 2023 and creep towards the new year 2024. Hope that was useful to you. As ever, do share the episode if there's someone else who you think could benefit. Hope to see you on the live workshop next week, and I will definitely see you on next week's podcast episode. So thanks so much for listening. I'll see you then. Bye for now. There is so much incredible information out there that's going to help you build and grow your business. However, what is missing from all this is the personalized feedback, support with troubleshooting, and tailored guidance that's really designed to help you in your particular situation with your specific challenges. Introducing the Business Incubator, a mentoring program focused on exactly that: implementation, support and accountability to help experienced corporate professionals like you grow your expert business faster without sacrificing your personal life to do so. You'll get expert guidance and personal feedback to help you focus on the right things at the right time, comprehensive training materials and frameworks to support you, but above all, you will get weekly structure and accountability to help you identify your priorities, stay focused and review your progress. And you'll get a supportive community of people who get it, who are going to cheer you on and share their lessons learned. So this is a really unique hybrid program that gives you the intimacy of one-to-one support, the training, frameworks and structure of a course, and that community element of a group program. You can read more and apply now at onestepoutside.com/grow. That's onestepoutside.com/grow.